Okay, it's recording.
Okay. So, welcome everyone to this workshop on finding your balance. My name is RJ Portella, one of your learning specialists here, and we are joined by some of the staff in the Division for Student Academic Success. And one of the things we're going to be talking about today is, with everything going on with COVID, with isolation, with virtual learning, things are in a constant state of adaptation, and sometimes that constant adapting gets a little exhausting. So maybe you are experiencing not being able to find your balance. So we're going to talk about your mind, your body, your spirit, and we're just going to do a little bit of sharing. This isn't one of those typical workshops where there are learning outcomes and there'll be things to learn. We're just going to be sharing a few things and go from there. So the first thing that I would like to present to you is in the private chat, and you can make this public if you would like, but I would like it to be a private chat because we're going to move into a 5-minute meditation after this, and I do not want you necessarily thinking about things that other people have said while we're doing the meditation. So, on the subject of balance and in the spirit of sharing, what is one question you would like to ask the room to share about their experience regarding balance? Maybe there's something on your mind about your mind, your body, your spirit, suggestions you would like, something along those lines. What is one question you'd like to ask the room to share about regarding balance? And I'm going to take those, and during the meditation, I'm going to weave them into the presentation so we can talk about them later on. So take a moment and please submit that question in the private chat. Thanks. And while you're doing that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. And we'll just wait for a moment for some of these to come in. And when I see the chat window light up a little more, we'll move into a 5-minute meditation. All right, and as those are coming in, I am going to encourage you to, if you have headphones, put them in. If you are in a room, maybe shut the door and get yourself centered a little bit. We're going to go through a 5-minute meditation that you can find on YouTube, literally by searching 5-minute meditation. You can do anywhere. And I'm going to rely on, I see Miss Rubright, Miss Waters, Miss Delgado. I can see you right now. So I'm going to play this and hopefully you can hear the sound. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear this.
Hey there, and thanks for gifting yourself these next few minutes. It's important to remember that you're a priority, and allowing yourself even just a few short minutes of intentional reflection can really have a positive impact on the rest of your day. So let's use these next few minutes to come back to center and set an intention for the rest of your day. Move into a comfortable position, whether you're seated at your desk at work or laying on the couch at home, and gently close your eyes and shift all of your attention onto your breathing, taking slower, deeper breaths than you've taken all day so far. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and slowly letting it out through your mouth. And continuing to breathe that way, feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale and contract back in as you exhale. Tune into your body, noticing how it feels. Noticing if there's anything that it's trying to tell you. Notice any place of tension or tightness in your body. And give those areas permission to relax, sending love into those areas. Thank your body for taking such good care of you, and let it know that it's okay to rest and relax for these next few minutes. You may notice that your mind starts to wander off. That's okay. That's natural. Just notice it and bring your attention back to your body, using your breath as your anchor. Try to picture one thing that's happened today that's made you smile, or made you thankful or appreciative. And just let that feeling fill you up for a moment. Breathe that feeling in from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And allow yourself to smile if that feels natural. Now focus on something that you can do today, whether it's for yourself or for someone else, that will allow you to continue feeling this way. It could be something as small as deciding to go to bed early tonight so that you have time to finally read that book that's been on your bedside table, or the joy of getting dinner with a close friend. What's one little thing you can plan for your day to bring that intentional joy to it? Now just focus on that for a few minutes. Sit in that feeling of joy and peace. Let's take a few more deep breaths together. A deep breath in, feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale, and everything contract back in as you exhale. Again, an even deeper breath than the one before it, holding that breath for a beat, and exhaling everything out. Last time, your deepest breath yet, sending that breath through your entire body. And exhale it out. And in your own time, slowly bring your awareness back to where you are. And thank yourself for taking these few minutes to just be intentional and kind to yourself. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and enjoy the rest of your day.
And as we slowly come back to the present to talk a little bit more about finding your balance, I hope you enjoyed the 5 minutes. And it's moving on to the next video. Okay. Also, one thing, I'm not quite sure how to do this, but do we know how to turn on the closed captioning? Randy, I'm not sure. I do not know how to do that.
Let me take a look. I think it says live transcript, so let me hit that.
Hopefully we'll get that going. And in the meantime, we will head back to the PowerPoint. And we're going to talk a little bit about balance. Thanks, Randy. I appreciate that. So El Gururi et al. In 2012 did a study, and what they found is that work-school life balance is one of the biggest stressors facing students, And we're going to talk about checking in on mind, body, and spirit to offer, like it said in the meditation, just one thing that you can do, not to be invasive to the day, not that takes you a very, very long time, but one thing that you can do to exercise your mind, which may come in the form of schoolwork, to exercise your body and exercise your spirit. And we're going to be getting some recommendations and some suggestions based on shared experience from everyone in the room to help your day reset. Now, this goes along the lines of self-regulation. And there's a quote here from Cohen in 2012. It says, self-regulated learners are those who are able to monitor their abilities and employ strategies to improve their learning. And that goes very much into self-regulated human beings who are monitoring what is going on with them, and also to employ some strategies for mind, body, and spirit to help improve their well-being, meaning setting little goals. Doesn't have to be epic. Monitoring the progress towards those goals and then making changes as needed. Perhaps maybe you're, reading one book to exercise your mind, or you're taking walks to exercise your body, or you are helping another to exercise your spirit. And maybe through the natural drift of life, maybe it's a different book. Maybe you switch up your something to get physical activity, or you switch up something that increases your spirituality. And you'll know, I think, intrinsically in your heart, if you are doing the right thing. So that kind of self-regulation speaks directly to mind, body, and spirit. So let's talk about, at the start of the day, what is one thing that you can do daily for each of the following areas in your life? So I want you to take a moment and I want you to think a little bit about a way to exercise your mind, exercise your body, and exercise your spirit. And I want you to either just mentally note them or write them down. And I also want you to think about, where can you set a reminder for this? Because as we get caught up in the daily activities of life, sometimes we forget to do these things and we may end up off balance, and we may get to 5, 6 o'clock at night and realize that we are exhausted from the day. And even though we may have something later on that we really want to do, we're just too tired to do it. Or maybe we get irritable or restless or discontent with what is happening in our lives. So take a moment and think about not only what's one thing you can do to exercise your mind, your body, and your spirit, but also where can you set that reminder? Is it a Post-it note on the bathroom mirror? Is it a phone alert in your calendar that would just naturally remind you? Take a moment right now and think about that. And we're going to be sharing some of that in a little bit. And I'm going to be asking for the people in the room. I'm going to stop sharing once we get through the next slides. I'm going to toggle back and forth. And we're going to talk about the ways to exercise mind, body, and spirit, starting with the mind. So what are ways to exercise your mind other than schoolwork? Now, you can put some suggestions into the chat window and we'll monitor those and we'll open up the floor and talk about them. Ways to exercise your mind.
So one way is to read, but not for school. So, and it doesn't have to be like, I don't mean you have to read another journal article or something text like really heavy in terms of subject, but even just reading something that, whatever you're into, like mysteries, crime, novels, all Stephen King, all those type of things. Reading actually just creates a lot of imagery in your head, and you're always like I know when I read, I'm like picturing what's happening or the setting. And so it kind of brings you in like to a different reality than your own. And so it kind of offers the escape of being somewhere else, but it also like works your imagination and it kind of envisions you as another character. So that's one way to exercise your mind without stressing yourself out more.
Thanks so much, Randy. Anybody else would like to jump in? One of the ways to exercise your mind. We have it also in the chat window. We have a geography game. Kyle said, Carrie says journaling, and I'm using first names here. You may know us as Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. So-and-so, but use the first name. Sarah says watching a documentary, listening to a podcast, or cooking and baking. Anyone else want to jump in and share?
I think for me, there's some things that are a little bit cross-listed, if you will. So I love to go for walks, which is part of the body, aspect as well. But I think that sometimes it's really important to go for walks without listening to music or without like other kinds of distractions, and just be really mindful and present of your surroundings, especially on a nice, beautiful day like today. But really just kind of getting the sun and being around nature, I think is really good for your mind and being a part of that.
Great, thank you. Anybody else would like to share about mind, exercising mind?
I would say I like to just shut it down at night when everyone goes to sleep. And what I call mindless stuff, just like watch my favorite shows and not have to put much thought into it. That relaxes my mind.
Good wind down, yes. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at what are ways you creatively exercise your body. Yes, we all know about maybe going to the gym, or there are some traditional ways to exercise your body, but I want you to think about what are ways that you may creatively exercise your body. Again, you can throw them into the chat window and we'll talk about them. I'm going to start this off. This is one of my favorite ways to get exercise, and I learned this from my mom, who learned it from my grandmother: cleaning. Cleaning is a great way for me to exercise, get some biceps with the vacuum cleaner, get down, scrub the floor, work out cleaning. Like I'll legit get a good sweat going cleaning. But the good news is when I'm done, I have something substantial around me. The house smells nice. Everything is put away. The trash is out. The litter is done. The laundry is done. And I feel like I have not only gotten some physical activity, but I feel like I've accomplished something. And dipping into, like Sarah was saying about, cross exercising mind, body, spirit, I will also, even if it's cold outside, just to detoxify the air, I will open all of the windows for a good 15, 20 minutes to get some fresh air in. Although I may freeze in certain times of the year, I'll bundle up just to get some fresh air in the house. Sarah also says stretching. Randy says I legit get sore from cleaning, like my back hurts. Any other ways that you have to exercise your body?
I mean, just having moved home and being able to spend time with my family. I went to see my godson, and he's like at that age where he just doesn't stop. And so he's hanging on me. He's showing me all of his toys. We're playing. And like a day after, lifting him up and carrying him around, I was like, oh, I'm sore, like just from lifting him because he's getting so big. And so I think just spending time with family and being active and doing fun things like playing with my grandson, oh my God, my godson's toys, and hanging with him, things like that, and walking the dog with him, stuff like that.
Definitely.
I was also going to say, Kyle, just to your point, I have a dog that I walk my dog as well. That's something that I do that kind of lets me, I don't bring any of my kids or anybody else with me. I just walk my dog around the block a couple times, and that helps me out a lot. Just stepping away from the everyday craziness of life and just spending some time walking my dog and looking around and getting some fresh air.
Yes, definitely playing with the fur babies, whether it's a Winnie or a Peanut or a Jeffrey or these are all of our pets, by the way, in the room. Does anyone else have any ideas about physically exercising or creatively working the body?
I would say, I'm a really big, and I know this might be your next one, is talking about physical. Is the next one talking about physical working your body?
No, the next one's about spirit. Go ahead.
Perfect. So I am like a very big proponent on working out. I've been active forever, and it's mostly because my parents were active. So when I grew up, I saw that and saw that that's how they dealt with stress. So that's kind of how I deal with stress now. Um, I work out in the morning every day, and that's something that I'm grateful for because I've just it like jumpstarts my day, even if I'm tired or if I'm just like grumpy about something. It puts me in like a really good spot afterward, and then I feel more ready to start my day, and I feel like I'm more focused throughout the day when I get to work out. And even if it's, I think people also have to keep in mind like working out is such a broad definition and there is no right or wrong way to work out. I don't like, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people and what they're doing, like whatever works for you and your body. I'm impressed with anyone that just like gets up and does something for 5 minutes. Going for a walk is really great for your body. Stretching and yoga, I love yoga too, and I think yoga is really beneficial. So there's so many ways to just kind of get out there and get moving, and it's there's so many studies and things that say how great working out is for your just like your mind and your body. So I encourage, just even if it's like 20 minutes a day and that's all you have and you just go for a walk, that's better than nothing. So
Excellent. And, for the benefit of the students, the gym is open with, the campus gym is open with limited capacity right now. Obviously, we have to follow safety guidelines as we would have to anywhere on campus. And one of the ways that sometimes, maybe it's not so motivating to get up and work out. There are two things to offer here. Number one, I always remind myself that it does not have to be an epic workout. I do not have to run the Ironman triathlon. A good friend of mine gave me this trick. She said she always goes to the gym and she gives it 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, she checks in. And if she really feels crappy, she will stop. And she has never stopped. And that's exactly what works for me. I usually will go on a machine. Miss Ferguson and I work out at the same gym. So, I'll get on the machine. And of course, when I see Randy there, I'm like, yeah, my friends, my colleagues, but to that point, maybe having an accountability buddy, like maybe going on either like a socially distanced walk, whether it's down near the river or over the Ben Franklin Bridge, or if there is a park nearby, if you have a friend or a family member or a godson that you can take out, that you can spend time with your family and just do, something together to bring yourself closer to your loved ones. Okay, so now we're going to take a look, and I think this might be one of the biggest ones for all of us because we all have different ways that we fill our spirit. So we're probably going to get a lot of great answers here. And again, I'm going to ask people to share what are ways that you fill your spirit. This is a very loaded one, and I'm very excited to hear what the responses are. Ways that you fill up your spirit.
I feel like this is another cross-listed one for me. I very much feel like what I said previously about going for walks without any, oh, Dewey, and cats fill my spirit. I call my cat Winnie my fuzzy little therapist. So I think that going for walks without distractions and just being present in the moment really just like warms my soul. I think that the sun is good for the soul. I'm just always very, I can't stop looking at Dewey. I think the sun is great for you. Like that just always lifts my spirit. But also I have a faith-based background, and so I often listen to gospel music when I'm feeling very low, because that reminds me of being in church. My church does not meet in person at the moment. We do like virtual things. And so listening to a solid gospel playlist really lifts my spirit. But then also just like talking with people. Sorry, I'm going on right here.
Do it.
I think that talking with people that isn't, I love you all, isn't in a work setting, that isn't in, a capacity where it's mandatory, right? Like talking with people that maybe you haven't talked with in a long time, that isn't texting, or maybe even not as like a Zoom call, but maybe just a phone call just to hear somebody's voice. that you possibly haven't heard from in a long time, whether that's family or friends. That has been very valuable to me and like warmed my soul a lot if I'm feeling a little drained. So
Great, thank you. Anybody else jump in? What fills your spirit?
I would have to also say the same. Definitely my church. We are meeting in church using CDC guidelines, but are also live. But I like that, you know, I can have the option of being there, having that, you know, or being in that word on a daily basis, especially when you hear all the stuff that's going on TV. You turn on the TV and all the negative stuff, and I have to remind myself who's on the throne, just so that, you know, I'm not getting into that depression. And my kids, you know, just, you know, found out about a kid that committed suicide in my son's school, and, you know, just that kind of stuff. I gotta be the strong one for the kids, because the kids, they don't know how to deal with this. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, just having that support. And it does include the spiritual. It doesn't include, for me, it could be yoga or listening to the gospel music or just being positive, being around positive people, you know, that can certainly help, because it's at a place where you can get sucked in if you're not careful. Like, I got to know when enough is enough, and I just need to shut everything down, and I have to be okay with that, you know, so that, and I'm grateful, you know, that we are in a place that we work that encourages that, and that is not punitive, right? That I can say, you know, to Randy or Marsha, you know, I need a day. I just need to shut everything down. And it's like, take two, you know, like, and I love that because I don't feel that guilt behind that. So that to me is, it's all wound up in that spiritual thing. Like Sarah says, it's all over.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Caroline. And also being able to acknowledge that, like, I need this, like, you know, it's self-identify, like, and there's absolutely nothing wrong and everything right by that. So students, if you are listening, please make sure that you are doing that as well. Speak up and let us know what is going on with you. You know, we're always here to listen, and we're always here to help. Anybody else would like to jump in?
I just want to like second the social media thing. So like, I feel like it's very important to unplug a little bit from that. I know that like I have a bad habit of using things like Instagram as a procrastination tool, which is like horrible for productivity. But then I also realized that after I'm kind of on there for a long time, I internalize some things, and I've had some like really long conversations with my own sister about this, and how we've both just realized like how the impact social media can have when you don't even realize it. It's like the comparison game of like, well, they seem really happy, or like they're doing things that I wish I was doing, or like why do they have that and I don't? Like, it's like a never ending cycle. But also realizing that people just post what they want to post, right? So you never really know what's happening. And then there's also the negativity aspect that, depending on what you're looking at, it can be filled with negativity. And it could be, you know, like anywhere from blatant like racism to just like, I don't know, just hidden messages of negativity, like just constant pessimistic, and you internalize that. And so one thing that I try to encourage people to do when you can is like, especially because we're virtual, it's easy to say like, okay, I'm done with my work for today, or I'm done with school, and I'm just gonna like zone out on my phone. But then it's like you're still connected virtually, so your mind just like never stops going. Like, so you're always like thinking about another person, thinking about something else, when you could take that 15 minutes that you just spent looking at all those Instagram stories and say like, I'm gonna just like be in this moment. Whoever's in the room with me, what's my family, if I'm alone, that's okay too. Like being okay with being alone and just like being within yourself, because I think that drains my spirit a lot. And so I'll take periodic social media breaks where I don't look at social media for like a couple of months. And then I'm always like, when I go back, I'm like, why did I go back? Like, I didn't miss anything. You really don't. The world just keeps going. So that's what I would recommend, is like taking those social media breaks, or just even every day, like disconnecting virtually for at least an hour, you know, like, and that doesn't count you going to bed. I mean, like, you're just like taking a actual disengagement, like midday.
True. It's funny, Sarah just put in there, I've been working on that, you know, not jumping right onto the phone when waking up, but just like being, yes, ding, yes, buzzing in on that one. Absolutely. Because I think, Randy, to your point, like being okay with ourselves is ultra important, because wherever we go, we bring ourselves with us. So we're our own common denominator. So if we're not, if we're not being okay within ourselves, it's very difficult to radiate that outward. You can't transmit what you don't have. Anybody else in terms of spirit?
Yeah,
Kyle? Or go ahead, Carrie.
So I'll just add, one of the things that I do, and kind of to Sarah's point, is I wake up 30 minutes prior to the actual alarm clock. And I know that's hard to say, right? But I force myself to get up a little bit earlier than normal during the week. And I actually come in my kitchen and I drink my coffee and I just sit. And I just sit, and my children aren't up yet. Nobody in my household is up yet. And I just sit and I don't do anything. I sit and drink, I drink my coffee, let me just say that, but I don't turn on the TV. I don't look at my phone. I just need those 30 minutes of time to myself. And that's been very, very helpful as of recently to me. I implemented that this semester. So.
Great, thank you. Kyle, I saw you unmuted. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to echo what Carrie and Randy were talking about when it comes to social media. I've even gone so far as to remove any of the apps that I just know I'm not going to be able to have a positive experience with. So like Facebook is no longer on my phone. And while I do enjoy Instagram because I'm a visual person and I like pictures, I have shut all of my notifications off, so that like I have to make a conscious effort to be like, I want to know what's this Instagram food blogger is posting, because I'm interested to see what they've been coming up with, and like going in and trying to be a little more intentional about it. It's still has its pros and cons, but it's definitely helped, especially because I find, at least for me, because I don't know, I guess it's just me, but like I love when Facebook or Instagram like to suggest you should be friends with your ex or their partner, and I'm like, no, I absolutely should not be. Thank you so much for that. So I find that there's like a lot even of just like sending messages in that way that I'm just like, I don't want to, like, please stop suggesting I be friends with these people. I'm not for a reason, right? The other thing I was going to say is connecting with nature. I think we talked about that a little bit already. I'm currently down the shore, as I mentioned earlier. And so I try to, when the sun is out, to go to walk on the beach. Yes, even if it's cold as hell, because there is really something spiritual just about connecting with the earth, at least for me, and taking the time to be on this planet and to really just feel it. And that's something that I really appreciate, and just being able to hear the water and think about like how big and wonderful the ocean is. Like just even like those little things I try to think about and unplug. And I always do it listening to music, because I can't walk or exercise without it, because if I can hear myself breathing like heavily, it makes me sad. So, yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And I see in the chat window grounding techniques, and oddly enough, that's what's coming up on the PowerPoint. I love my colleagues. I just love y'all. I hope students that you're getting something out of this as you hear some of the ways that we do this. But remember, just because we're on this side of the screen, or just because we're on this side of the desk when we are live, doesn't mean we have this always figured out. We're fellow human beings having a similar experience to you on this earth, but just to get an exchange of ideas going. Hopefully something is striking you like, oh, I didn't think of that, or maybe I can try this. Just a little bit of growth, a little bit of one little thing maybe new each day. Hopefully it'll help. So let's take a look now as we go back to the PowerPoint. Oh, whoops, I think is that sharing? No, hold on one second. I had clicked that, but it didn't come. There it is. Okay, so now let's talk about, we talked about ways that we can remind ourselves, whether it's a phone alert, a Post-it note, about one thing I can do in the next 24 hours to exercise the mind, the body, and the spirit. But there are two techniques that I want to share with you coming up, which is what happens if during the day you experience an anxiety flare-up or a panic attack. And one of the ways that you can manage that is what's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. This is grounding with your five senses. And this is something a lot of life coaches, a lot of therapists use. I actually could not find who invented it, but maybe that doesn't make a difference. The point is that we definitely have it. What you do is you pause and you identify five things you can see: the sun, the picture on the wall, people walking. Four things you can feel: the wind, your feet on the floor, something in your hand, the clothes on your body. Three things you can hear: birds chirping, a clock ticking, car horns, a cat meowing, anything. Number two, things that you can smell: the food in front of you or the detergent on your clothes, fresh cut grass, the coffee. And then one thing you can taste, like the toothpaste from brushing your teeth, or your breakfast, or whatever the case is. So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is a technique to ground you in your five senses. And it starts, you start with five, and then you gradually focus yourself into one thing. And also concentrate on your breathing, slowly in, slowly out, just like we had in the meditation. So that's one way, just one way. And again, I am not a doctor, I am not a therapist, but it's something I know a lot of friends of mine have used. I know it's something that I have used myself here and there to deal with an anxiety flare up. I'm going to share one more thing, and then I'm also going to open it back up to the room to offer, what do you do when you feel like you're getting jammed up in your head, or overwhelmed with fear, or that something is just not quite right? What do you do? And before we get to that open sharing, I'm going to also introduce you to the Halt Technique. This is something I use a lot. Whenever I start feeling off or whatever, I literally, it's funny. If you watch me, like if you were a fly on the wall, I'll go halt, and I will start running through H, am I hungry? A, am I angry? L, am I lonely? T, am I tired? If I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. If I'm angry, for me, anger is usually fear disguised as anger. I always ask myself, what am I afraid of? RJ, where's the fear? If I'm lonely, I will reach out to some people, not necessarily knowing if they will get back to me, but even reaching out. If someone crosses my mind, speaking of the spiritual program that I know Sarah and Caroline were talking about before, I always feel like when someone crosses my mind, that's the universe's way of saying, hey, reach out to them. Maybe they need you. And it's odd how many times someone will say like, hey, I really needed, to say hi or connect. And then if I'm tired, just like Caroline said, I will shut it down and I will take maybe a half an hour nap, an hour nap, or if my body needs it, a 3-hour nap, or whatever the case is, because if I can't show up for myself, I can't show up for other people. Now, that's a different story when you have obligations, or if you're supposed to be in class, or if you're supposed to be somewhere, whatever the case is, but you gauge that on a case-by-case basis. So again, we have the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. And we also have that mini inventory of HALT. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And what I'm going to do is open this back up to the room to ask, what do you do when things get jammed up? What do you do specifically? Anyone want to jump in, please?
I mean, I do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like if I feel super anxious, because I do struggle with anxiety. And so sometimes just being able to take that step back is really helpful, because it does exactly what it's meant to do. It grounds me in the moment, and then I can sort of process what's happening, and in a weird way use both techniques, because then I'll be like, okay, why am I anxious? Because I can usually get to the bottom of it once I like try to relax a little bit and be in the moment. I also try to just regularly take a step back and take a 30,000-foot view if I can, and see like why am I not productive? Why am I not motivated right now? What are the barriers to me doing that? And can I move beyond them? So like recently at work, I wasn't feeling very productive. And I realized that it's because the way that I had been organizing my workload in a previous job is not helpful to the way that we do our work here. And so I had to think like really intentionally about, okay, take a step back, figure out what you need to do to make your life easier, and start like testing some things out. And so being able to like see everything from a 30,000-foot view can be helpful. I know it can be really hard to do that, especially if you feel so in whatever emotion you're experiencing. So sometimes it's hard to do that for me, but those other grounding techniques have helped too.
Great, thanks. Anybody else want to jump in? What works for you?
Breathing. But really, breathing. I also struggle with anxiety, and I really cannot stress how important it is to just breathe. And I think it's a little bit of those things like all kind of tied into one, like Kyle was mentioning and like you were mentioning, RJ. But bye, Caroline. Breathing and really intentional breathing, like our meditation that we did earlier. And so there's a couple different ways like of breathing. And if anybody does yoga, they probably have experienced this. And I literally forget all of the names of the breathing. I just know they involve your nose and whatnot and your throat. But yes, yoga is so helpful with breathing. And so if ever you're like, okay, what on earth is the big hype about breathing? Just doing a yoga session that is not about necessarily the physical activity, but it's more about the breath work is life-changing. It slows down your heart rate, which I think is the number one, factor that can help you get through maybe a panic or just an anxiety flare-up, as you called it, RJ. I think that that's incredibly, incredibly important. But just like taking a moment and stepping away from the computer, whatever it is, and taking 3 very long, deep breaths, that has saved me many, many times. I will also be incredibly painfully transparent here because I think that transparency is incredibly powerful. But I started seeing a therapist throughout the pandemic. I've been in therapy for a very long time because of my anxiety. But I specifically made a switch during the pandemic because I knew I wasn't getting what I needed prior. And so I think what Kyle was saying about the 30,000 foot view is like, what is not working for you, and addressing that and identifying that and seeking out the necessary support, because we don't always have the answers. As you mentioned prior, RJ, excuse me. It's not our job to have all of the answers. Our job is to create a network of support that we can collaborate with to build a beautiful life. So that has very, very much been the ways that I've dealt with this stress, this work-life balance, and it has helped me gain a lot of different perspectives. Having the right support network around you is essential.
Thanks so much. And I appreciate that. We're and what you would mention, Sarah, is coming up in a moment. This is I love this. In terms of in terms of what we can and can't control, or what we can and can't do. Heading back here, take a look. At the end of the day, one of the things that I personally do in a spiritual program that I practice is I do a nightly inventory. So as you see the lovely Camden sunset there, at the nighttime, come up with a little bit of an inventory. Here are some examples, that a little bit of reflection. What went well today? What didn't go well? And, could I change it, or was it out of my control? Did I play a part in it? Did I contribute to the problem or the solution? And also, what am I grateful for? That's something that I will end my nights with when I thank the universe and I call my higher power God, whatever your higher power is. Maybe it's the universe, maybe it's nature, maybe it's love. What am I grateful for? And then the next morning, if I'm lucky enough to have my eyes open again, I always will, over my little morning meditation like Carrie is doing, I usually will sit on the couch and just do nothing as well. And I always say to the universe, like, whatever you've got for me today, I'm going to roll with, and I'll probably make some mistakes today, but I'm going to own them, and I'm going to do the best I can with it. You may hear, this is the non-religious version of the Serenity Prayer. Grant me the serenity meaning calm amidst the chaos. Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. One of the techniques that I use in a situation is, do I have any power over this? And if it's usually about another person's actions, the answer is a definitive no. I only have control over the things that I can do, and will do them. Hopefully, if I am being receptive to the energy of the universe around me to show me what the right thing to do is. So earlier on, at the top, I asked everyone to put some questions in the chat window, and we're going to go through 2 of them right now before we wrap up. The first question for discussion here is, and I'm going to ask everyone in the room to ring in here, how do you achieve balance when you are responsible for other people's well-being? How do you achieve balance when you're responsible for other people's well-being? So I'll start this off here. Again, you know, if I'm not taking care of myself, I cannot show up for others. So the first thing that I will do is, if I know, it really depends on the situation. If someone is calling me screaming or crying, or if I know a friend of mine is hurting, or I see a post on Facebook where someone kind of like vague books and doesn't say what's going on, but I just like, I get that, you know, I use my intuition, like I'm going to check in on them. But also, if I'm in a situation where I am tired or I am exhausted and I know I'm not going to come fully to the situation, I'm going to lay low for a little while and take care of myself so I can be there for others. And Sarah said, you know, it's always helpful to have an accountability partner for this. It doesn't have to be a spouse or a partner, but having an accountability partner is always helpful in some way, shape, or form. Just so we're not so alone or isolated, which I think everyone's feeling a lot of, you know, with these screens around our heads here. So I'm going to ask anyone else if they would like to jump in here. Remember, the question is, how do you achieve balance when you are responsible for other people's well-being?
I think communication is very important. So I think it's natural to, and this is coming from someone, to be transparent, I don't have children. I just have my cat, who is like a child, but it's my cat. And it's just me and my boyfriend who live together. But I often feel like I always feel like I have to take care of other things or other like responsibilities first. And I've seen, you know, I have friends that are mothers or caretakers, and all between in the spectrum. And I think what happens is you kind of lose touch with how you're feeling, to your point, RJ, and like, and knowing that you can't show up for other people if you can't show up for yourself. And so kind of verbalizing those needs to whoever it is you're caring for. So whether it's, you know, you have children, and I know if you have young children and you're a single parent, then it's difficult, like you may not have a choice. But finding those ways to, okay, like Carrie mentioned, getting up early, like, all right, if I have this responsibility, I can't avoid it, right? Like I have to take care of these people and I care for them and I want to, but I also care for me too. So I'm going to get up 30 minutes early and I'm going to just have my time to me, and that will help me recharge a little bit before I have to take care of someone else. If you're like Miss Caroline, I know she's like, she waits till everyone goes to bed at night and then she does her thing for herself, because she is the ultimate caretaker. She's always taking care of her family and everyone around her before herself. But she does make sure that at night she does take the time to have that quiet time to herself where it's just her. And so finding those pockets of time where you can just be you and be with yourself, I think really helps with the balance. It's not always going to be perfect, and it's definitely never going to be like a 1-to-1 ratio. It's usually more or less of you and more of the other people. But if you're intentional about it, I'd say even having 20 minutes a day to recharge can do wonders than having nothing. So really just kind of finding ways to creatively do that time. Even if, I'll throw in one more thing, even if you're driving, you don't listen to anything in the car. Kind of to Sarah's point earlier about like not listening to music while you're walking or a podcast. Like the other day I drove home from the office when I was there in complete silence. And it was like kind of nice to just have the quiet where I just kind of was like debriefing in my own head how I was feeling that day, as opposed to just kind of trying to ignore it through music or something like that.
I love that, honoring your feelings rather than ignoring them. Very important, honoring them. And we're going to go to one last question before we wrap up here. And that is, this is another one that was put into the chat. What are ways that you manage burnout when you feel like you're nearing it or fully in it? We did discuss this a little bit, but if anyone has anything to add about managing burnout when you feel like you're approaching it or fully in it. In other words, a way to cut it off at the pass so it doesn't necessarily overtake you. managing burnout. Sarah, Kyle, maybe Fallon, I don't know if one of you could jump in.
Sure. I think for me, I mentioned this a little bit in the chat, but setting boundaries about my routine and sticking to them and not apologizing for them. So I'm very particular about, I also like to go to the gym in the morning when I can. And depending on how I'm feeling, like we talked about. And that usually means for me waking up super early, which means Kyle needs to get his 8 hours of sleep. So that means I have to go to bed early like a grandpa. And so I've had to have conversations with people who have wanted to like hang out on a weekday and be like, that's not going to work for me because my routine and my self-care is really, really important. Can we do that on a weekend, or can we do that earlier and try to figure it out from there? And I have missed out on some things, and I think it's okay to be okay with missing out on things if you can still safeguard yourself and your well-being. And that has been the thing that really kept me going in my last position, when things were, moving fast and furious, and we were opening in, our housing and residential life department. And that was there was a lot of unknown, a lot of stress, a lot of work that goes into the summertime in housing and residential life. And you do a lot of emotional labor with your staff when you work with them. And so there was a lot of times where I was like, I have a lot of work to do, but I need to not do it right now. And I need to be able to communicate that with my supervisor and say, I need to take some time for me and get it done. Get myself and my mental health, right, if that makes sense. And that can be really scary and challenging. So I could probably talk about this for forever, but I don't want to dominate the conversation.
It's thank you, Kyle. I don't know about you. For me, setting the boundaries doesn't always seem to be the hard part. It's enforcing them. That's the hard part. It's when like this challenges something. And I loved what you said, doing it unapologetically. It's like, no, that's not going to work for me. And no is a complete sentence. And it's perfectly fine to say no. You're not going to lose, hopefully, any social capital or hopefully friends, or maybe if you do, I'm wondering how solid that friendship was if they don't respect your boundaries or what you can and can't do.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I mean, like, this might sound funny, but I've had to say no to my parents too about things. And I know that I'm 31, right? Like, so I'm at that age where I feel like I can have those conversations with my parents, but I know not everybody feels comfortable with that. And it took me a while to get there, to be like, no, I can't come help you this weekend because I have dedicated time for myself. You need to ask somebody else, or I can help you on my time, and be able to have an adult conversation. Like I'm grateful my parents are very accepting of that now. But at first I used to get hit with the like, well, family's everything. And then I would have to unpack that with them.
But I'm also part of this family. Yes.
Right. And my well-being is just as important as doing whatever you want me to do.
Yes. Understood. Before we wrap up, does anyone have anything final that they would like to offer here before we close the meeting out?
I would like to say communication is key. So the purpose of this workshop really was to provide to the students just some context and background about our own experiences, so that that you're not alone in this process. I mean, we all went to college many years ago for some of us, but we went to college, right? And there's things that I wish that I had done looking back, or people that I had talked to or reached out when I needed it, and I didn't. And that's why I do this work now, because I want students to know that there are people who care and who do want to support you in your college journey, and that it's okay if you're struggling. I think there's a lot of stigma around asking for help, around exposing weakness, or saying that, no, I'm not okay. Like, I'm not good with virtual learning, or I don't have the support I need at home, or I don't have the support in the university that I thought I needed. Voicing those things is not going to make you a bad person. It's not going to make anyone not like you. It's going to make you like, people in this room are going to just want to help you more and figure out for you, like, well, how can we support you? What do you need? Because it is different for everyone. Everyone's situation is different. What you've experienced up to this point is different. So there is no one size fit all. There is no magic workshop. There is no magic anything. It's really got to be customized for you and your experience. But the only way we know how to support is if you tell us. So the more you tell us, the more then we can figure out, well, what are we missing that is not supporting you in this way? So I encourage you to reach out to someone, whether it is a faculty person or it's one of us or the people who have been contacting you or an advisor or even a peer. Like if there's anyone that you feel comfortable with and you're like, I just need to like connect, I can guarantee that there's a lot of people who would love to connect with you too, but they just don't know how to make that happen. So communication is key.
Great, thanks so much. So we're going to close out the work. I don't know if it was a workshop, a meeting, whatever you want it to be. You can label that whatever you like, but we're very happy that you took the time to watch this. We're glad you're here. You belong here. We love you, and stay safe and stay well. Thanks so much.